Reading from Luke chapter 10, verse 38. As Jesus and his disciples were on their way, came to a village where a woman named Martha opened her home to him. She had a sister called Mary, who sat at the Lord's feet listening to what he said. But Martha was distracted by all the preparations that had to be made. She came to him and asked, "Lord, don't you care that my sister has left me to do the work by myself? Tell her to help me." "Martha, Martha," the Lord answered, "are you worried and upset about many things?" You are worried and upset about many things. But only one thing is needed. Mary has chosen what is better, and it will not be taken away from her. Martha is a Proverbs 31 type of traditionally ideal woman. In Proverbs 31, the woman of praise and respect is practical. She's intelligent, she's hardworking, she successfully combines family and business. And in so doing, she strengthens her family, she builds it up. Martha is that kind of person. Practical, intelligent, hardworking, successfully combining community responsibilities with her own family. And so she invites Jesus and the disciples in for a meal, and probably even to spend the night in her home and the home of neighbors. But she's not a one-woman army. She needs help. She deserves help. But Mary isn't helping. She's sitting. And Martha complains to Jesus, "Please speak to my sister." And surprisingly, Jesus says, "Your sister has chosen what is better. We're not going to take it away from her." Jesus takes Mary's side in this little family drama, but today I'm going to take Martha's side. Now, we're going to start by making this story a Christmas story. Martha represents the mother/grandmother in your family that knew how to make great family events happen. And great family events take planning, administrative ability, most of all, they take love. When I was young, we always went to my grandparents' house for Christmas in Stockton. Anytime you're driving up the 99 freeway and you pass Farmington Road, look to your left. The old ramshackle house is right there to your left, is where we met for Christmas after Christmas after Christmas. My grandmother was the Martha in the family until sometime after my grandfather died. My grandfather was 32 when he married my grandmother, and she was 16. Out on the plains of Alberta, where they did things a little bit differently. So when we went to Grandma's for Christmas, Grandpa was usually over in a corner talking theology with his sons, who were both Adventist ministers, while Grandma and my mother and my aunts were busy, getting Christmas together. After my grandfather died, my mother became the Martha in the family. And she did it. She took that role because she loved Christmas. And because she loved getting the whole family together under one roof. And when you get the whole family together under one roof, great things usually happen for that family. My mother worked and planned towards Christmas all year long. Right after one Christmas was over, December 26th, when it came, she was going to the Christmas sales to get presents for the next Christmas. That's when they're the cheapest, or they were, until Black Friday. She got the Christmas cards out early so she wouldn't be distracted at the last minute by preparation. She got all her Christmas shopping done, as I said, way early. She organized the household. Dad was in charge of the lights. He and I set up the tree. We put on the Christmas lights. We put on the Christmas lights that were my favorite. Little bubblers, hard to find these days. But they bubble, you know, and I get a great thrill when I see bubbling lights on a Christmas tree. It reminds me of those early years. We didn't put up many Christmas decorations, but the heart of Christmas for my mother was Christmas dinner. She invited all the family members to come. That meant she had to find a place for them to sleep. And she planned the meal. The meal usually had some of the same things that were traditional foods in the family down through the years. For example, Veronica, German dish. And she had a veggie roast. My dad would work for 4 hours wringing the gluten out of that roast. And then when it was all nicely spiced up, you know, if you ever tasted that, you might like turkey for Christmas. I don't know. But if you ever tasted that veggie roast, you'd forget about turkey. At least that's my theory. So good. And then we always had Rollekuchen. Now, Rollekuchen was little flat pieces of dough that had been, rolled out and dropped in hot bubbling oil, and then they would puff up like little brown pillows. Then you bite off a corner and pour applesauce in. Oh, so good. And you know all the salads, and you know the yams and all that. And then you get down to dessert, pumpkin pie, pecan pie. But then after the dessert was over came the moment of truth. My mother was a Martha, and she had little tolerance for Mary. The kind of Marys in our family who liked to sneak off to the front room after dinner was over so they could sit in on the high-level discussions with the men. Theology, prophecy, politics, and football. And my mother did not care to be left in the kitchen after all that work. To be left in the kitchen to do all the dishes and put everything away and do all the straightening up. And she complained to my father. He said, "You're complaining to the wrong person. Why don't you complain to the Marys in our family?" So when she invited them the next year, she told them, "This year I really want some help in the kitchen." And after dinner was over and the dishes were about ready to be cleared away, then she would remind everybody that she needed help in the kitchen. And if she didn't get that help, she sent somebody into the front room to get a Mary to follow into the kitchen. My mother did it. She did all that Martha work because she loved Christmas and she loved her family. And that's why Marthas do it. They get the family together. They do their very best for the holiday events, for the special events that come up in the year, because they know that by getting people together, the family bonds are strengthened. They reaffirm what the family is about and its love. A family is a living system, almost an organism. It's a living system. And the first dynamic of any living system is that it will always seek to maintain itself. It will continue to strive to be true of human families. And that's what Martha wants to accomplish in our families. She wants our family to continue to exist and to become more of a place of love. And in order to do that, Martha uses 3 tools to build the family, to reinforce it. The first tool that Martha uses is the tool called myth. Myth. Are there people in your family who claim that they're descended from people who rode with Jesse James? Anyone here? I've met more people who had great-great-uncles who rode with Jesse James. Anyone here, do you have family members that came over on the Mayflower? Say, oh, really? We got a hand. That's great. I've met a lot of people who had relatives coming over on the Mayflower, see? Now, a family myth doesn't mean it's not true. It means that the story has been made, edited into something special so that it can contribute to the family reinforcement of value. In our family myth had to do with the fact that we are Norwegians. And my paternal grandfather came over from Norway in 1906. And his family roots went, on church records, it can be proven, all the way back to the Black Death in the 13th century. No records survive from before the Black Death. And we know in our hearts that the Dahl family goes all the way back to the Vikings, right? Leif Erikson discovered North America, and there were 35 men traveling with him in his boat. I'm sure that there was a Dahl on the boat. Okay? We come from the Tisca Valley. Dahl means valley. And I have been there. It was a great experience. But it's myth. I say it's myth because my paternal grandfather was Norwegian, but his wife, 16, she was German. And then my father, half Norwegian, married my mother, and she was German from the same area of the Volga in Russia. In other words, we're mainly German, but we don't like to talk about that. This is family myth at work. We talk about being Norwegian. What are the myths in your family? Marthas know the stories and like to remind people of the stories about what makes your family special, what goes into its identity. Then the second tool that Martha uses to build family are rules. In every family there are rules, spoken and unspoken. The unspoken rules are the most important rules. Can we talk? Can we talk about it after the service? Well, I'd be happy to talk with you after the service. The spoken rules and the unspoken rules. Which way at Thanksgiving dinner do the platters of food pass around the table? Do they go clockwise or counterclockwise? Who speaks first in family conversations and who speaks last? Do you have to eat everything put on your plate? Did you have to eat everything put on your plate even though you didn't like it? That's because your parents probably grew up during the Depression, you see, like my parents. Family rules reinforce how the family is in the world. And then the third tool that Martha's used is the most interesting one, rituals. The rituals surrounding births, deaths, marriages, special events, Thanksgiving, and Christmas. And these rituals reinforce the family and what it stands for and what it's about, and thus continues the family from generation to generation. Marthas are people who make family happen, and they make church family happen as well, because they help people stay connected, stay involved. And we need to understand that Marthas are on the endangered species list today, because Marthas are burning out. To get people together who are scattered, who think that a relationship is texting and Twitter and cell phone, don't see the need to get together with people that they don't share maybe common political beliefs with, and maybe they don't want to hang out with an uncle who grosses them out because he doesn't get all his nose hairs cut, and they just don't see the need to get together. And so Martha has to try to pull them together, try to make it happen. It's becoming more difficult. And the Marys who don't help are making it worse. Now, I graduated from Monterey Bay Academy, and our boarding school class was like a family. A lot of us went to the same school for 4 years. There's one person, she was the class secretary, Sherry Zuccarelli. She's the class mom. She calls people, keeps asking them how they're doing, getting their addresses, trying to get them to come to the reunions. She is the class Martha. We have to have Marthas if our families are going to stay together and prosper. But Martha on the endangered species list. The Marys and the Lazaruses have to take the trash out, learn how to clean up the kitchen. Great family life depends on Marthas, but they can't do it by themselves. Bill, I've kind of taken Martha's part in the discussion so far. Why did Jesus take Mary's part?
Mary was Martha's sister. Mary and Martha had very clear differences in personality, and Jesus commented about it. Let's read the story again in Luke 10, the same story we read earlier. As Jesus and his disciples were on their way, he came to a village where a woman named Martha opened her home to him. She had a sister called Mary who sat at the Lord's feet, listening to what he said. But Martha was distracted by all the preparation that had to be made. She came to him and asked, "Lord, don't you care that my sister has left me to do the work by myself? Tell her to help me." "Martha, Martha," the Lord answered, "you are worried and upset about many things, but few things are needed, or indeed only one. Mary has chosen what is better, and it will not be taken away from her." Please note in the story, it was Martha who opened up her home to Jesus. She was the hardworking and entertaining one of the two sisters. It was because of her hard work and hospitality that Jesus was even invited as a guest. But what does she do when Jesus arrives? The text says, she had a sister, Mary, who sat at the Lord's feet, listening to what he said. But Martha was distracted by all the preparations that had to be made. She came to him and asked, "Lord, don't you care that my sister has left me to do the work by myself? Tell her to help me." Martha had done all the preparation before Jesus arrived. And when Jesus finally arrives, what is her attitude? She was distracted. Verse 40 implies Mary didn't just lay around while they were waiting for Jesus' arrival. Martha asked, "Lord, don't you care that my sister left me to do the work by myself?" The key word there is left. The text implies Mary was doing something, perhaps helping in all the preparations, but left Martha alone to do the work when Jesus arrived. What do you need? What do you do when you expect an important guest? You shop for food and prepare the meal. You clean the house. Perhaps you shampoo the carpet or polish the wood floor. Maybe you even wash the windows and weed the garden and trim the bushes. If the guest is staying overnight, as Jesus very well may have done, perhaps you launder the sheets and linen and make the bed. I can imagine Mary and Lazarus and the entire household doing this in anticipation of Jesus' arrival. And what does Mary do when Jesus arrives? She eagerly sits at Jesus' feet and listens to him, just like all of Jesus' other male disciples, and maybe her own brother, Lazarus. And what is Martha's complaint? Lord, don't you care that my sister has left me to do the work by myself? Tell her to help me. Interesting, she doesn't just quietly ask for her sister's help. She walks into the gathered crowd and asks Jesus to tell her sister to help. Talk about a passive-aggressive behavior and triangulated communication. She interrupts Jesus to let everyone notice who is doing most of the work of entertaining Jesus. She wants her gift of service to be noticed. But what does Jesus say? Martha, Martha, the Lord answered, you are worried and upset about many things, but few things are needed, or indeed only one. Mary has chosen what is better, and it will not be taken away from her. Mary has done her share of the preparation. She is now sitting at my feet with all my disciples and listening to what I have to say. As we read in another passage of Scripture, this story is not unique. It is a continuing pattern. Let's look at the other story in John 12, 1 through 11. The title is Jesus Anointed at Bethany. 6 days before the Passover, Jesus came to Bethany, where Lazarus lived, whom Jesus had raised from the dead. Here a dinner was given in Jesus' honor. Martha served, while Lazarus was among those reclining at the table with him. Then Mary took about a pint of pure nard, an expensive perfume. She poured it on Jesus' feet and wiped his feet with her hair, and the house was filled with the fragrance of the perfume. But one of his disciples, Judas Iscariot, who was later to betray him, objected. Why wasn't this perfume sold and money given to the poor? It was worth a year's wages. He did not say this because he cared about the poor, but because he was a thief, as keeper of the money bag. He used to help himself to what was put into it. Leave her alone, Jesus replied. It was intended that she should save this perfume for the day of my burial. You will always have the poor among you, but you will not always have me. Meanwhile, a large crowd of Jews found out that Jesus was there and came, not only because of him, but also to see Lazarus, whom he had raised from the dead. So the chief priests made plans to kill Lazarus as well, for on account of him, many of the Jews were going over to Jesus and believing in him. Here again we see Martha serving and Mary sitting at the feet of Jesus. On both occasions, Mary is criticized. In the first instance, by her own sister. In the second, by those who think she spent too much by anointing Jesus' feet with expensive perfume. In both instances, Scripture only records Mary's silence while allowing Jesus to defend her. Aren't there some important lessons for us here? After all the preparation is done and the house is ready for the guest, shouldn't we too spend some time at the feet of Jesus and simply bask in our relationship with him? At Advent, we remember what is written in John 1. In the beginning was the Word, And in verse 14 it continues, the Word became flesh and made his dwelling among us. As we approach the Advent, could we have the tendency to be too much like Martha, distracted and worried about doing the work, preparing the meal and the house for the guest's arrival, wanting to be noticed for all the work that we are doing? Christmas is not about being distracted, worrying, and stressing out on all the things that need to be done. Perhaps it is time to bask in our relationship with Jesus and sit at his feet to listen to the Word who became flesh and dwelt among us. Mary exemplifies the kind of person with whom God wants to have a relationship with, the one who has chosen the better part. May we have this same relationship with Jesus. Let us all have a very merry, that's spelled M-A-R-Y, Christmas.